Brave People podcast. He's my best friend. We co-host live from Machete Comics together on the Crier Media Network, which fully highlights all of his super talent. And what a talent. He's one of the most talented people I've ever met. He creates his own comic book. He does commissions. He's got a hell of a journey. He helps kids. He's just there for the world. And he's just trying to inspire people to live their best life. He does it through art. He does it through music. He completely changed my life, and I know he's completely changing the lives of others. It's a great story. It's Chris Machete this week on Do.Did.Will, the Story of People podcast. Well, hey, what's going on there? It's Do.Did.Will, the Story of People podcast for another week. Well, my best pal in the whole world, Chris Machete. The guy's got a hell of a story. We're going to talk a whole bunch about it. He's been on the show before during the old incarnation of the show when we were all locked down doing shit and we just talked on the back porch. But lots has happened since then. And there's a lot going on with that guy. So Why not have a chat with you? What's going on, buddy? What are you up to?
As well. Just getting mobile here, as we say, in the world of cartooning and on comic books and entertainment. Yeah.
So for the folks out there listening and watching, if you're so inclined, Chris and I also do a thing on Monday nights called Live from Machete Comics, which is a total blast where we chat about, everything, pop culture, all the rest of it, movies, film, wrestling, and all the cool shit. So you can join us over there on Monday nights on the Crier Media Network with our pals over there, and it's a great chance to chat about some of the other stuff, because I never get the chance to talk about that stuff per se outside of like when we do it on Monday nights. So that's a blast over there.
Yeah, there's a time limit when we're on our show there, Machete Comics. We have some rad guests too, and you got to let the guests talk, right?
Absolutely, and our guests are they're piling up over there too. We got some good ones coming on too. So and theme, Chris likes to run them in themes, so we're doing like all sorts of stuff. So it's kind of rad. All right, so bare bones, breaking it down. Chris Machete and I have known each other for a very, 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 very long time. We're going back like 93, 94. We had a band together and just did a ton of stuff and had a blast together. And in that time, one of the great discoveries of Chris that was really awesome was I'd never met like a comic book artist before. I was like, what is this? Like, I never read a song, like a proper songwriter before. I was like, Chris had come and kind of blown my world up a little bit, because at that point it was, small town hockey players and
music that was 5 years behind the times.
GM factory workers and all this kind of stuff, which is great. But it was just like, that was what was in my space at that point in my world. And so we join a band and we get together, and next thing I know, it's like my world is thrown upside down. And ever since then, wow, man, it's been going on a long time. So it is Do.Did.Will. So why don't we tell everybody, hey, Chris, what do you do, man?
What do I do? Well, again, as I said, I like to work in trilogies and I move quick. So I'm a triple threat is what I like to say. So I have my comic book company, Machete Comics. I have a private school that I'm just starting to expand a bit on. It's Chris Machete School for Gifted Youngsters, and I'm teaching comic book art to kids who don't get what they need out of the school systems. And the third one is one we discussed a bit. I do the podcast with you, my friend, live from Machete Comics. So there's my workshops and stuff, right? And there's the podcast. Yeah, I love helping the kids out. So I have to keep busy. So I have 3 things on the go at all the time. Some people think that's crazy, but that just occupies my brain perfectly. So I can keep moving and shaking.
Is it in 3s all the time? So is it a hamster wheel that doesn't stop like the rest of us? Because creatively, I can't. I'm creative in a different way, but you are constantly writing and doing all these different things. So I mean, it's got to be in 3s, or can it be in 5s and 6s?
I've narrowed it down, because if I do too many, like if I start saying, okay, now I'm going to start working on films, or now I'm going to start advocating, stuff for the homeless in my area, or I'm going to start exposing this, that's when I start getting crazy. So over the past 5 years or so, I have ADD, ADHD, or however you want to pronounce that. I deal with it my own way. And by narrowing down 3 things I'm really passionate about, 1, I take care of the hamster wheel that's going on all up here. And also I pay my bills, man. So it's cool. But I have given up music though. So there's another one that I've scratched out of the 3. And that is just something that adds to the anxiety that I've discovered that I can't do anymore, which sucks. But maybe I'll find my way around that. You never know. Right now I'm just focusing on the 3, right?
Which one of those 3 gives you the most joy?
Drawing the comic books. Well, no, that's tough. I like them all. I think that's why I do them all, because I love drawing comic books and creative when I'm by myself, because I'm a very I grew up as the only child, so I'm used to being creative on my own, and that's why I think I thrive when I'm on my own, when I'm working on stuff like that. But also when I teach the kids now, because I've changed. I haven't had a music school since I've moved here. And I've just been privately teaching kids, because one thing that I discovered from having a large music school is you can't help everybody. And when I do have the option now to narrow it down and focus on a certain group of kids or parents or individuals, I enjoy that, because some of these kids come in, man, and they're picked on in school. For an example, like I have one kid who comes in, he's in grade 3 and he's being picked on by a grade 6. And he doesn't know how to deal with that at all, because he's at the age where his parents are like, well, everything's cool, man. They're great parents. Like, have fun. You should have fun. He gets to school and he's like, wait a minute, this is not fun. So he comes, and plus they've cut the art programs out of the schools now, right? Around here, it's now creative writing. And so anyway, so I'm getting a lot of kids who can't get that outlet for their creativity. And that is I just kind of walked into it. I'm like the Pied Piper with a guitar and way cooler. Do. I just play the riffs and the kids follow me and they find me. And I found a great little, I say my school now is like the school for gifted youngsters. And the thrill I get out of that, though, is just so rad, because these kids are awesome. I'd rather hang out with the kids and animals, to be honest with you. But I love teaching the kids. And when I do get that connection with them, I can feel it. And this vibe, I know it sounds weird, but there's a vibe you get when you help a kid. That's for sure. That's for sure. So it's really a toss up. And then doing the podcast is where I can kind of expel. I can talk really quickly about things that I love, and I can give my opinion on some stuff. So that's like an outlet. So you see, I'm creating on my own. Here I am at a comic book store in town here, SB2, who's just picked up my program. So I have the outlet for myself, my creativity. I have to help people. I pick kids, and I do have food drives when I do my productions as well, my in-stores, which is very important. And then I have my podcast with you, where I can hang out and kind of vent. So you can see it kind of helps all the different personalities of me, I guess, right? Triple threat.
Now, the music side obviously was giving you anxiety, and we've acknowledged that a lot on the other show, especially. We've had some bands on, and the anxiety from live. Where, and we talked about it privately, but I'm very public about it. Like, I don't hide it. Where did the anxiety start?
I know exactly when it started. I can almost pinpoint the moment that it started. Go on. Sorry, did you want to finish?
Yeah, but the part 2 to that is sort of like, because when we maybe you had the anxiety back in 94, but at that point, maybe it was masked with us partying and doing all this stuff. And there was a lot of things to distract from potentially being stressed. But at what, so it really comes to like the realization that your best friend is struggling, but you're like, where did it start? Like, where did it actually
This is a bit of a story, but I can tell you. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
wow. So I remember the exact moment. I was in the front passenger seat of our van, crammed in the van, Chuck Caliber, and there were 6 of us in there. And I remember thinking to myself, wow. And this was the point when we were talking with Sony, 2 gentlemen from Sony. And I remember thinking to myself, looking out the window and watching that yellow line go by, man, like Sloan says, right? And it just hit me, is this what I want to do for the next 5 to 10 years of my life? Because we weren't getting along. It was the classic story. And we're right at that point where it's like, okay, well, is this what you want to do or not? And that's what the gentleman, I won't name any names, but the one gentleman from Sony was telling me, is this what you want to do? Now is where you got to make your decision, man. And I freaked out in the van. I started hyperventilating. I had to get them to pull over because I was going to jump out. It just hit me at that friggin' moment. It was terrifying. I've had anxiety playing shows, just performance, like, whoa, I'm nervous and I get on there. But I've never had that I'm going to jump anxiety. Now, to back up a bit what was going on in my mind, excuse me, from the band side of view, we had two suitors from Sony. And one was just, in my opinion, had no idea what was going on. He was just kind of going around and looking at what was popular, and he was following that trend. And then we had another gentleman who I actually really respected, and he was coming to our shows and he was talking to me, only me, not anybody else. Okay, so we're not getting along in the band. We're paying our dues. We have been. We're close, you know. They're coming to me. The other guys are like, hey, well, why aren't they talking to us? I don't know, man. I'll ask him next time. So I asked the dude next time. He goes, why the hell do I want to talk to those guys? He says, you're the guy I want to talk to. Like, okay, you know, younger Chris, woo, rock star. Let's do this. This is great. Yeah. I remember one time, one of our bass players just said, well, I'm going to go up with you anyway. And he came up with us, and dude wouldn't even start talking to me. He's like, what do you want? Right to him. What do you want? Made him feel like an ass. So he walked away. And this wasn't Dent. This was the other bass player. Sure. I had parents of the other individuals of the band like calling me and asking me what was going on. And the funny thing is that the gentleman that I was talking to through Sony, who I really admired and who seemed to admire me, wanted to get rid of the three people in the band that I wanted to get rid of.
Right.
We had two bass players, we had three guitar players, and a drummer. And he wanted me to get rid of both bass players and bring in a talent. As he said, bring in a talent. And he wanted me to get rid of one of our guitar players was a little overbearing and was trying to sing a bit. And he couldn't stand him. Could not stand him at all. So he wanted me to remove these folks from the band. He's not talking to them anyway. He's
anxiety.
So the anxiety, and we were good, man. Like at this point too, we were good. Like we were going into places and just demolishing. Other bands didn't want to go on after us because we were just demolishing. We were this monster, right? But all the pressure was the thing I wanted. Now here's the thing too. I wanted this as a kid growing up. I was like, dude, this is what I want. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting it. And I'm discovering that this isn't what I wanted. The more I'm getting in there, the higher it's building up, right? The less I'm enjoying myself. And the more it's just like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And I just wanted to be alone reading comic books. That's all I wanted. Drinking, I didn't even want to drink beer. Sorry, because I had so much draft in me. So the anxiety from being so close to making it.
Yeah.
The anxiety of wanting it since I was like 6 years old. And the reality of being surrounded by people who wouldn't have been able to deal with what was coming on both scenarios. The scenario of the guys that were chosen to move on and the scenario of the guys who I would have had to remove. Could you imagine me after all that time and all this dedication saying, hey man, we made it. So you got to go.
Well, and the funny part about that is like, number one, that never crossed my email or desk either. At that point, when
it was all me, buddy,
when I was attempting to be a manager. But it's funny that you bring this up because what we don't and what is not talked about enough, I think, in the side of it, and considering how mental health is such a thing in our business. But when we were going through either when we were going through that with Machete or trying to make Caliber break or anything that I tried to manage at that point. Even with Joe and everybody from there, it was like, but can you handle it if it happens, or do you actually want it? And it's funny that that the exec asked you that question because, in my brain as a manager or trying to be a manager at that time, the whole thing is to move forward and try to actually get the deal, get it out, make it happen. But in that process, and this is very interesting, but in that process, I don't think I ever asked anybody if they actually wanted it. It was just like, we're going to do this together. Let's go. This is a continuation of the Machete thing. We never made it with Machete, but this one's going to go. And we never, I
did want it. Well, we all know, I think it was known that we wanted it, but Machete was the high school the college to the real life, right? You know what I mean? Machete was the college band where we played colleges and we played parties, and it really didn't matter. We had our jobs, and our jobs sucked ass. We had the worst jobs we'd ever have in our entire lives, but that helped us because we were craving that weekend party, and then we would show up and be the stars of that party or that bar, and it was great. What a great way to make friends, man.
I want to come back to this point on the what will you do section.
Yeah, because I just want to end it off with one thing: is that it really bothers me that I can't do it anymore. Like, it's not that I'm like, ooh, I'm not doing it anymore. This is great. No, man. Like, I still teach guitar to a few chosen, a few gifted youngsters. But I grab my guitar occasionally. I'll go out in the back porch and I'll jam out some. I was like playing some old stuff from the '90s there the other day, man. It was just fun, And then I'm like, damn, I wish that I could do this, but I can't. Because as soon as I start thinking I'm going to put a band together, the next day I wake up and I think, wow, am I ever glad I didn't text anybody? Or am I ever glad I didn't commit to anything, right? And I've told my wife that if I ever get back into it again, she's allowed to punch me as hard as she wants.
The thing is that with that creative hamster that you have, though, and I think about it all the time too, I desperately miss playing drums and doing stuff. And I'm always kind of like, and when I'm on tour, occasionally I'll try to find a studio somewhere and just pop in for an hour and just bang out, just to get the lead out a bit. But I much like yourself, I have no interest in the actual putting something together and trying to go make it. I mean, the funny thing is I get to see it on the other side now. So I get to see how the bands are actually not necessarily treated, but I get to see sort of like the slog of the day that I never, like, I saw it a bit as a tour manager, because I was tour managing bands trying to make it. So it was a fucking slog. But seeing bands that have made it and seeing what they're going through daily, and even the side guys like in Guns N' Roses, or like a side guy with Dragons, or the side band with Shakira, or the side band with whoever, anybody else that's just a hired gun or whatever, and watching what they have to go through on a daily basis. I'm like, why in the fuck would I ever wanted to do this to begin with? The only possible way I would ever be a rock star, if somebody said to me, here, dude, you can be a rock star, is if it was 1974. Right. I know.
Not today, so man. Not today.
But I think it's it's healthy for you as a creative person, regardless. I think you writing music and stuff, I think
I'd love to just play guitar in a band, and just go. I would love to do that band where I play one show a year. Chris Machete plays this summer gig once a year, and I have the guys that actually I've offered to do that, and I just get down to it and I start writing the set list down, and then I get all, and then anxiety hits, man. But anyway, my final point on that is that it does bother me. It does, and I do want to play again, and I'm still trying to figure out a way to do that. Maybe I'm going to be 70, and that's when I'll make my comeback.
How did you do it, man? And I'm talking about, let's specifically talk about Machete Comics. Let's talk first on the Machete Comics side, as far as the talent to draw in that, because that is like a talent that's greatly eluded me as any kind of artistic talent when it comes to drawing or anything like that. But you've got these incredible commissions that you've done. This thing went viral on
that was a good one.
On the old Twitter there with Cody.
Cody,
you did
hella fun. We just had them on
our pal.
That was a
Gary.
fun project.
But like you put out 3 comic books, which we'll get into. But tell this story about how you actually did it, and I'm going to show the bio from your website as you do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we start with this. This is
Oh, okay. Excuse me. Yeah, I remember I was probably like kindergarten, I think it was. I was homesick from school, and my dad brought me home like a stack of Spider-Man comic books, like seriously. And this was in the 70s, of course, and because I'm 50 now. And I was so hooked on these. And then I discovered that there was a cartoon, and there's the Batman show, but it all started with Spider-Man. I've always just been hypnotized by the art from back in the 70s and the 60s. Jack Kirby was somebody who, the way he brought Stan Lee's ideas to life has always stuck with me, and I still go back to that. Again, sidebar, like, when's the last time they've created a new character? Yeah, that's great stuff.
These old comic books.
When's the last time they created a new character? Spider-Man is from the 60s. Batman's from before that. I think Deadpool might be the newest one. He's from the 90s, and he's just lucky that he got in there. But I've always had a passion for creative storytelling. And then again, being an only child by myself, I kept myself occupied with my Spider-Man toys and just creating little episodes for them in my basement. And then, of course, being in a smaller town, man, I love hockey. I still love hockey. I'm Canadian. I always tell, there I am there. Oh my gosh, yeah. bottom left there, second in, right beside the big goalie there. Yeah.
And the hair is almost the same.
It's close, right?
It's close.
Oh, I was still loving rock. I was like huge Kiss fan back then.
And it's funny guitar. That your coach in the middle there.
Larry Robinson.
But he's got that jacket, and those jackets are still sold now.
Wow, because we have a couple of those.
Yeah.
We still have a couple of those.
Yeah.
So I played hockey, man. I was on like the rep team, and we played like 3 times a week, driving all over the place. My dad loved it. I loved it. I could still play hockey. I love hockey. Like, people ask about me, I say I'm Canadian. I play hockey and I drink beer and I like comic books. So that was tough though, because being in the small town, and this is being back before comic book stuff was cool. I was the nerd because I read comic books. So as soon as I found that out, you play with toys. I hid everything. So I couldn't let none of my friends know that I like comic books and drawing, and even more so into school. That was not something that people got behind as teachers would. As me now, I'm like telling kids, you can have a career in this. Just create characters, draw, keep doing. And I remember being in grade 3. This is my story I tell everybody. But in grade 3, I was drawing a picture of Spider-Man. I remember this so vividly. This is, again, another one of the anxiety tippers for me as a kid, right? Triggers. So I'm drawing Spider-Man. I was really proud of it. The teacher came along, caught me. And she was a big lady, right? And she picked up my picture and she's like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Unlike her to say that she liked something like this, she brought it in front of the class. Look at the picture that Chris drew of Spider-Man. Oh my gosh. And she ripped it and like twice, 3 times, and threw it in the garbage in front of all the kids, right?
No way.
Yeah. So it's like, and she said, nobody wants to look at your pictures of your drawings of Spider-Man, Chris. Back to work, right? So nowadays, I always tell that story to kids and adults. That's kind of like my story. Again, an anxiety trigger, right? So sometimes it's wild because I like drawing late at night when everybody's kind of done their day, and I feel like I'm kind of sneaking it in there. You know what I mean?
Can you imagine that happening now?
No, you wouldn't exactly. Craziness, right? But
no wonder our generation has got a little bit of
Gen X, yeah.
Well, people are also like, go hit the kid, and our society's like, rough right now because you can't discipline these kids, and we need a feelings room now, and it's just a funny kind of thing. But I couldn't imagine like my kids coming back and this story of like, I spent all day on this project, and my teacher believes that I need to go work in a factory, so he ripped up my fucking thing. That would just traumatize a kid.
Oh, dude. Well, so then let's move later on to high school, where I quit in grade 11, grade 10, and grade 10 beginning of 11. I went back, and so I was going to go to the Joe Kubert school here. I wanted to go there to go to a comic book school. It was like this point in time, this was the only one in the world, in the States. So I had to go back and do my, when you get your supplement for your adult learning high school diploma. So you go in and you write a test, and I did the test and I just scraped by. And I remember the teacher there. She was a gym teacher / social worker? What do they call those guidance counselor?
Guidance counselor.
Okay. Yeah. And the last thing she said to me is, Chris, if I had a daughter, I wouldn't let her sit beside you if I saw you somewhere. And secondly, if you think you're going to play guitar for a living, you're crazy. So because at this point I was going to be a rock star, right? Because I had the look. She thought I just wanted to be a rock star. So I didn't tell her I was going to be a comic book artist or anything like that. So that was the last thing that she said to me before I left high school. So we've got this grade 3 teacher and this guidance counselor. They harassed me all through high school. I wasn't kind of asking for it, but I can remember being stopped in the halls by teachers and them pushing me against the wall and saying, why are your eyes dilated, and blah, 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 all these big words, basically telling me that I was stoned and I was high, right? And just pinning me against the wall, like just, and the treatment that I got wasn't, it didn't encourage me to do anything other than get the hell out of there. So then I did get into the Joe Kubert school, which was great, man. It wasn't college, woohoo. It was college like, hey man, you're living in a town in New Jersey that has a 10 o'clock curfew because of violence. Your school has a security barrier that you have to get buzzed in on, a security guard on the inside, and right across the street, that house with a mattress for a door, that's a crack house. So I got in late as well, and a long story there about mail being lost, but I ended up getting a place to live with this old lady, and it was just up the street. I was just like renting a bedroom from her in this place that was infested with roaches, cockroaches, dude. I had like a pentagram around my bed of like roach traps so I could keep them off of me. So I go to this place, man. So I'm going from one terrible learning experience to when I'm thinking, all right, college, professional, adult, here we go. Yeah. You know what I mean? This is going to be great. It's not. I'm like walking down the street and being just this fresh-faced Canadian kid with the hair. You know, now we're hitting the grunge era, right? Yeah. Well, that was just before that was like probably a year before I left. So my hair was cut off to my shoulders at that point. And there's, you know, little Eddie Vedder walking down the street, and you know, smiling at people, and they just stop and kind of just shove into you, like, whoa, okay. Walk home another way, and there's a bunch of, you know, hey, oh, SA, you don't belong here, white bread. No, you can't walk down this street, man. It's like, are they serious? So this is my first month. I'm just like, what the actual F? I come from a purely white neighborhood, not white area, thrown into where I'm the only white guy in the whole, I would say almost, it felt like the whole town. You know what I mean? And when the teachers at school found out where I was living, they took extra care with me and were like, whoa, yeah, did you get your homework done? Oh, geez, okay, that's great. Well, you know, just take it easy, huh?
You didn't get shot last night?
Dude, some of them were they would invite me over for dinner and everything, man, because they felt so worried about me because it was such a bad part of town. So you learn quick. Holy smokes, man. I did not look at people in the eye when I walked down the street. I would look at the pavement just to see if anybody was stopping me. It was crazy. But that's how I got my discipline, man. And if you want to do something that's fun, you need discipline. You know, you don't think Connor McDavid was playing hockey like every extra moment he had? That's what I did growing up. I drew on the back of my tests. You know what I mean? Like I drew at home. I created characters. The character that I'm using now, Skeletron, I created when I was 15 years old.
How did you learn that, though? Because we didn't have the internet back then. So was there books to show you how to draw? Or you had to learn?
There was like the Marvel way. There were some books of anatomy, and I had all those, and that was really, really cool, you know. But it wasn't like, you know, you could specifically find the reference. Like nowadays, man, you need a reference for a 75 Camaro. You put it on the screen, you got it.
Yeah.
And you need that. That was another thing I learned was that, you know, we're not all brilliant. We can't just envision what a penthouse looks like in 1982, right? You gotta reference this stuff. So that was another thing that I learned. Just the discipline and the professionality that I learned from the Joe Kubert School, being taught by actual people in the industry. So I'm going by these teachers that were pulling like, you know, the bully thing on me, like pushing me around and pulling rank on me, to these they weren't teachers. These were professionals, and they were guiding me. You know what I mean? They were telling me what to do, how to do it. And then you go through this, you know, your 3 hours of homework, you come in the next day, you're exhausted, but you got it done. And they're like, yeah, you know what? It's a B-.
What kind of homework? What kind of homework is at the Joe Kubert School?
Oh, dude. So they'd give you for one thing, just one example, they would give you a script. Okay. So in panel 1, here's what's going to happen. You're going to have a guy riding into a quiet town on a horse. They give you the setting, whatever, I can't remember, you know, back in the Western days. You got a white gentleman riding in on a horse with a handlebar mustache. They describe him to a T, right? So then you draw that in the first panel. Second panel, you know, the horse, the guy on the horse gets shot. Close up of the guy on the horse, and then close up of the horse itself kicking backward. All right. And then we wanted another panel of the guy lying down, you know, clutching his chest. In the background is the horse taking off. So you know that he's on his own now. He's trapped. Final panel is a ground view from behind the feet. This is an exact one. I remember this one because I loved it. A back view from behind the feet, and you get their little spurs.
Yeah.
And then in the background is the guy like just kind of holding up his hand going, no, wait. So you know what I mean? Like guy comes into town, it's nice and quiet. No, he gets sniped. He falls off. His horse leaves him there on his own. He's surrounded by the bad guys. Boom. So you have to show all that. And you have to do that at night. So you finish school, you got to do that at night. Also, you have to fill a page with eyeballs that look exactly like eyeballs. And then on top of that, you've got to do a little bit of lettering. Not much, but just a little bit of lettering. So you're looking at like 4 hours of homework that night, right?
Wow.
and a lot of people wouldn't get it done. But what they were teaching you was a deadline. Right?
Yeah.
And that's how you like, okay, it's not done. Okay, well then you get an F. At least you finished it. You got a B minus, you got a C plus, but you finished it. And they'd hype like, good for you. Good job. Yeah, but they gave me a C minus. You know, you finished it. Good work.
That's the key. The key is that you finished it. But when you go into that school and okay, so you have designs to maybe work for Marvel or work for DC.
I did at that time.
Or work for something. And do they say to you, come to this school and then you probably can go work there? Kind of like when you go to like a university and like, if you come and take this course, there's a good chance you're going to be a biochemist or there's going to be.
I did. And the end of my very first year, I got paid to do inking for one of my teachers who just gave me a shot. Right. And then from there on, it was somebody above saying, then the next year was just like, hey man, here's like 5 pages, go eat. And then and then the next thing I know, I'm getting handed McFarlane pencils for a puzzle. Because this old school teacher didn't like the new style pencils of McFarlane. Meanwhile, I'm like fanboying. You know what I mean? Like real literally, right? Like, you know, like, holy crap, seriously. He's like, oh, I can't stand this new artist. Look at how big he does Spider-Man's eyes and the webs are everywhere. It's like, yeah. And so some Swamp Thing stuff. But the inking, so yeah, not only, well, you were being taught by people that you look at the comic and go, oh, I'm going to get taught by this guy? Are you kidding me? Like, that's what I was doing. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I got there. And of course, there's only 2 other Canadians in the school, right? And that was another thing. It's just the culture shock of all that. You know, man, did they ever give it to me. It was great. Like, it was actually really fun because, you know me, I'm a smart ass myself. So once I got comfortable with everybody, it was pretty easy to hit them back. Yeah.
It's just fascinating to me that space, because then I guess my question from there becomes then like, what were your options? Is it inking, or do you take it from this work that's being sent to you, and then you can do that full time for the rest of your life, or is there a mission to like do these things, and then we're going to introduce you to these people, and then you're probably going to be full time for Marvel? Like, how does that? What is that sort of?
Well, yeah, it's different now because now you can't even send work in. Marvel chooses you.
Interesting.
But no, this was the fast line into DC and into Marvel. They would have like sessions where the final year students would come in and show their work to, you know, publishers from Marvel and DC. I remember Jim Shooter coming in from back in the day. That was huge. There was always Marvel guys coming in. I was taught. I had it was a month of lessons from the Hildebrandt brothers. One of them, I can't remember which one it was, but they did that classic Star Wars poster we love so much, dude. Like, yeah. So you're not even thinking about getting a job because you're already being taught by these guys you idolize. It's like going to guitar college or university and having Slash come in and teach you for 2 weeks. That's exactly what it's like, dude. So, and again, like any other college thing, you get majors. You find you're better at certain things. I had no idea I was going to be good at inking. I had no clue. Actually, I thought I was going to be a penciler. Now I'm both. I do everything because of modern day.
Sure.
But back then, I didn't think I was going to be an inker. It was just the teachers started really complimenting me. Everybody started complimenting. Students would be like, hey, man, how do you do that? And I would just ink a little something for them. And then next thing you know, a teacher saying, hey, want to finish off this page for me? You know, and finish off the page in class and get it done for him, hand it in and give it. He's like, right on. You just did, this is going in Swamp Thing. It's like, dang.
Wow. Do you get paid for that? Do you get paid?
Not for that one. No. But after that, yeah, I started getting, that's what. So when I was finished school, I went through, well, personally, I had a girlfriend at the time that I was with for a long time. And like the 7-year girlfriend kind of thing. And then that ended. That was life-changing for me. So it was kind of like, and then my dad's, his car dealership was not doing that well. He was leaving the city at their town I was from. You know, it was just like, oh man, I can't go back there. So it's like, what do? You look towards punk rock.
Yeah.
And I heard Green Day while I was doing my homework. I met a friend in New Jersey that introduced me to Green Day, and I always played guitar. And I was like, man, I can do that. I need to vent. This is bad. First time I was without a girlfriend too for like 7 years, as I mentioned. So holy cow. Part of me is kind of like, all right, gone to college, had the girlfriend. It is time to party proper. So I moved to Caesarea. Man, there's like population 37 or something, right?
Yeah.
So I went there. So they're going from another extreme, right? To go from the only white guy in the neighborhood again to go to
nothing else.
All white people who are even more backwards than where I was before that. Yeah. It's like even more, Yeah. So I just partied, dude. Well, I met you. We put a band together, Mr. Machete, and now we're full circle, right? Now I'm back around again. I partied, and it was fun. That was the thing, is when we started Mr. Machete, it was just a vent for me, and we discovered that the three of us really clicked. I loved hanging out with you guys. You guys were my best friends. We had our own little, because you guys really didn't have any click or any kind of your thing before I moved there, and then when I moved there, we just kind of started our cult of Machete.
It was just different. It was just different. It was just like, it's like anybody else. It's like we talk about people that are guitar and non-guitar. You have to be taught to come out of if all your options around are just the people that are there, then you don't, as I said at the beginning of this show, like this was the first time I really had an outsider in my life, right? Where somebody was like, you did what? And you do, huh? And you write, and like that's just not something that you have in your life full time. I had people in my life at that point, and obviously the go back, the Modern Day Braves and Dave, and like there was bands around that we could hang out with and sort of get that thing, but no one was from the outside. You were like the first outsider to come in.
Why are you here?
Well, yeah, like your spaceship landed and you got off and came in and walked into Max Milk, but it was like the first outsider thing. So I had to be guitared. You know what I mean? Like I was very non-guitar at that point. I gave you guys the gumption to actually leave Port Perry and check other things out is what more like, look, there's a music scene here, there's this here, and not only is there a scene here, but we can be a part of it, right? It's like, so I know, so you're like, okay, and your vision was like playing cover tunes. Yeah, we'll play cover tunes, because, remember my dad was in a cover tune band, and my other friends were playing cover tunes, and that's how they got their first gig, and I was like, no, there's a whole other scene out there that we can be a part of. And that's when, Dent was like, wow, I can actually have friends and, go out in social circumstances, and you were like, wow, there is another world out there that I want to be a part of. And I was like, I just need, I was a lonely dude who just like was kind of crushed and was like, I got to vent. I need some friends to help me vent. And it worked out perfectly. And then it brought me around to, and then we're back to, having that high school or there we are, right there you go. You have the, as I do the air quotes, the college band, and that evolved to having the real life band in Chuck Caliber, where you're really trying to, this is it, man, I'm going for it. And there's a big difference between the two. I don't think personally I would have survived. I think I would have done some really, really bad things. I mean, like drug wise, I don't think I would have hurt anybody, not on purpose. I wouldn't have been one of those guys, but I definitely would have gotten into the partying excessively. On top of what we were already doing.
Oh, dude, it would have been like, that's what I mean. Like it would have been really bad, really bad.
I know. It's such an interesting, it's finally, I guess, in essence, caught up to me.
Wow.
Kinda, made up for it. I definitely made up for it, but it was an interesting sort of like time, and I just remember being like enamored with your talent. I remember just being like, God, this guy draws, he writes music, and it definitely taught me about, aliens will come from another place and they will change your life, and people, as we joke about, but it was a funny kind of time, and you were playing music at that time, and you got these great guitar lessons online that actually taught me some stuff. They're getting some massive numbers, like 49,000 people.
They keep trying to drag me back in, man. I know. It's like, see, this is the thing is, and I see this and I'm like, why aren't I still doing this? And then I start doing it, and I remember the anxiety is just nuts. And it's weird to tell, like, whenever I mention this to musicians who are still doing it, they just look at me like, oh, I know.
But I know a lot of guys
they almost don't want to talk about it, though. They're like, oh, like
a lot of guys.
Rhodey from Protest the Hero, man. We were talking about it because Luke doesn't play anymore, and we all came up together again. Yeah. And I missed Luke, that Luke was there. The new gentleman that is in filling in, that is in his place now, is an amazing dude. I can't remember his name, but what a great guy. And a student of Luke's, which is even funnier. And he kind of looks like a mini version of him. This is wild. But I miss seeing Luke there. And he's publicly said too, it's anxiety. But I don't hide it. I used to hide it. I used to just say, oh no, I'm coming back. Oh no, I'm just taking a break. And I felt like an ass. And now when everybody asks me about it, I don't mind talking about it anymore. But I can tell when I talk to gentlemen, or just folks who are still performing, that I quit because of anxiety, and they just get that look like, because I can tell they get it too, but they're fighting it, like. I
have these bands that are opening up for like all these other bands. and I talked to them. I tried to talk to all the opening acts to find out what their journey is currently and how are they doing it. And like Mother opened for Imagine Dragons all last year. That's a band that's actually doing 2,000 to 3,000 people on their own everywhere they went. They blew up on TikTok, and they were getting like a solid guarantee. We never got those, but they were getting like a solid guarantee to open up, and it's still a fight. And so I go, holy shit. Like this band just did 40 shows with one of the biggest bands in the world, opening up and doing 3,000, selling things out on their own, and talking to Ryan, like the singer. He's like, oh man, I gotta keep going, or the stress wheel goes. And I'm like, it never ends. James Hetfield from Metallica is like, hey guys, I'm shutting it down. What's his name from Oshawa there? The pop kid, all the girls like, not Bieber, but
Drake.
Not Drake, but there's another one. Oh my God, daughter will kill me for this. Shawn Mendes. He's like, just cancels everything. Like a giant world tour. No, I can't handle it. Derek went through it with Sum 41. So it's a very interesting thing. So you're not alone in that. And
no, I know. That's what I say. Every time I mention it to other musicians, man, they just look at it like, oh.
So we move on to what will you do next, man? There's lots going on. You've got this amazing, the first thing I want to touch on for everyone listening at home, you're not going to be able to see this, but people watching, Chris put out Skeletron, which is like a dream come true for him, putting out his own comic book, which is just incredible. Again, there's some of that storyboarding that we were talking about. I think it's such a feat. Such a feat, because this is the only thing I've got creative out in the world is this show. So it's amazing to watch, and a bit of the music that we did, but to watch that happen. But you're doing a ton of things. So the plan, what will you do next? What's your plan here?
Well, I'd love for my comic book to go to animation next, and then of course go to like a TV show or film. That'd be great. It's in 10 issue segments. Just a little more funding to get behind it, right? And then I can keep it going regularly. I'm just a dude who pays the bills with his air quote talents. I'm very thankful that I can do it, but it's a struggle sometimes, especially after COVID. Like just coming back. I'm doing good now, man. Things are like pounding now, but obviously, if I'm going out and doing seminars with kids and workshops, it's slowed down over COVID. No, they don't want to go online after they've just been on there all day. So it's great that I'm back out there. I want my school, not my school, because I don't like to call it, School for Gifted Youngsters, I guess. I want my art program for the gifted youngsters kids to just reach the right people. I don't even care how big that is. I actually segregate my classes only to 4 to 6 students because I want them to get the proper attention from me and the proper care from me. So I would want my comic book to go as far as it can go. I have a whole universe planned for that thing, man. I'm always planning. I'm way ahead on that. And the school, I just want to help the kids, really. That's what I get out of that. I usually make enough money to pay the bills with a lot of the school and the artwork. Mm-hmm. So as long as the kids are getting what they need from what I want to teach them, and they are, and I'm reaching them and I'm finding these kids. It's like Professor Xavier, man. I'm trying to find these kids who need me. These kids are being bullied in school. These kids who aren't getting the proper attention to their talents because of whatever reason, whatever situation those kids are in. It's not the kid's fault what situation they're in. And a lot of people don't understand that. It's like, wow, that kid's kind of he doesn't talk to anybody. He just sits there. He won't even look in my eyes when I'm talking to him. Well, he's a kid, man. There might be a reason for that. And kids can't deal with things the same way adults do. And if I don't help some of these kids, they're going to turn out, they're going to be a little messed up, and they're not going to reach their full potential that they could as a gifted youngster. So I'd really like that
responsibility on, though. Like obviously you want to see the success of these kids roll, and you want to see them excel and all that. But getting back to the anxiety side, as you balance through your own anxiety and trying to be creative, but you've taken this on a bit. You've taken on this project to inspire these kids and get through it. Does that add to your anxiety, or does it?
No, it's the opposite, because what I have is controlled. It's controlled, and it's everything that I've set my triple threat that I've set myself up with. I can handle, and as I mentioned, I kind of need to do it for different parts of me. The teaching with the kids that I need to do because I need to help. That's my position in life. I've always felt. What I say to people, hey man, I'm here to help. That's my slogan. I'm here to help. But what I want to do now is narrow that help down to the kids that really, really need it. And as I mentioned, there are a lot out there that really, really need it. So it's and I will take on that responsibility for 2 hours a week. I don't mind, because can't recall like having any devastating misses, like having a kid come to my school and being, other than they're a little bit spoiled or whatever and didn't want to learn, but that's a whole other spectrum. That's just maybe a kid getting a little too much too easy, not having to work for it. That I've swung and missed with, because I've declined on teaching them, but I can't recall swinging and missing with a kid that comes in, won't talk to anybody, their eyes are down, like they leave with their head held high. I can't recall having a swing and a miss with those, my friend. So I really like the challenge. I know that I can reach them if they're into comic books and drawing. If they're into sports and cars, I don't think I can help them. But the majority of these kids are young and they're creative, and they want to express themselves through art and ideas.
For someone like yourself that's as creative as they are, and you're designing these out, and you've got this opportunity, whether it be online, whether it be YouTube, whether it be sort of all these places that didn't exist when you first started doing this, is it easier now or more difficult for you to go for it?
It's way easier because advertising is right here on my phone. Yeah. I just, every other morning I'll spend, I'll spend a few hours on there just loading stuff up on all my different channels on there. I can advertise for my in-store that I did there at SBT Comics. It's all free too, you get that buzz going, and also just for drawing purposes, for just being able to bring anything I want to draw up on the internet. Oh man. Yeah. And then, but going back just quickly to the anxiety of the three things, I've chosen them so carefully and naturally progress to them, because there's other things I want to do, but I focus on these three for certain reasons. If I don't have anything on the go, I'll get anxiety. So if it's such a crazy balance, right? So knowing that these three things, knowing that I'm doing a podcast on Monday, knowing that I'm doing a workshop on Sunday, knowing that on the end of the month I'm the guest of honor at a Frankenstein event that I'm getting paid for, knowing that I'm doing all these things and it's my name and I've gotten the gigs myself and I'm my own boss for these. No, that keeps me going, right? If I get up in the morning and it's like, hey, Chris, you've got nothing going on this month, then the anxiety flows, because then I'm like, you can feel yourself bleeding money, right? But since COVID's been over, I'm nothing but busy. Yeah, Frankenstein workshop there. That's at the Grand Theater, which is a great gig, right? And then the issue 4 release of Skeletron, and there's more things coming up that aren't on there. Yeah.
There's lots going on.
Mm-hmm. But in my 3 segments there, right? See,
your 3 segments, yeah.
I could have a band on the side. I could have.
I couldn't imagine you adding a band. I couldn't imagine at this point. I couldn't imagine you at this point adding band practice at this and phases. And I could see it from like a standpoint of like, hey, you're actually going to play a gig with Protest and those guys, and you're going to have some fun, and that's cool. Like, you put together something, but I couldn't imagine you adding that, knowing what you're trying to balance right now.
I'd rather play hockey. I'd rather play hockey than play in a band right now, to be honest with you. As I mentioned to Mark. Yeah.
How good was that hockey player right there? What number were you? 15? Is that 15?
15. Always 15. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I did well. I was on the top line. I was right wing.
Look at those Cooperalls you're wearing.
Yeah, a few of us.
Chris is wearing the long pants for hockey. Anyone listening, he's got the long pants. You know what I want to see? Well, outside of all these comic books going and exploding, but I definitely think that people need to also, like, Chris is doing these like commissions, and this is like the coolest thing in the world, and that I think people need to understand, that like Chris also does these really rad extra things that he can draw you anything, and I really would love to see Cody and some of these guys put this stuff up for auction. Chris did a picture for Cody Rhodes from WWE and have that like go to charity. That would be a great thing. I'd love to see happen, in that space. Just because I just feel like everyone like that's talented needs to have their moment. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They need to have that. It's not the 15 seconds of fame. It's not all that. It's just that moment where it's like, yeah, everything I've worked for, everything I've done, and that commission from Cody just made $100,000 for charity or something. That would be great. That's my wish at this point, given how far you're pushing ahead on these things, is to see all these things hit at the same time, which is a big, giant journey to that moment. But I feel like it's coming. I feel like it's like months away from
Thank you.
just like hitting.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah,
it's a very cool feeling.
I can feel the wave is rising. The wave is rising here behind Machete Comics, which is great. I'm getting a lot more attention. As I say, more people are. I'm not. I just kind of put the gigs out there for the workshops, and the kids are coming. It's good.
Well, we'll wrap. It is Do.Did.Will, the Story of People podcast. What a story my friend Chris Machete has. It's been amazing, and we could do 4 more hours of all these other things. So direct people to all the places, and we'll send them there.
Yeah, it's just want to go to machetecomics.ca.
Tons of stuff on there. All the commissions that we talked about. Merch store today. I purchased my Machete mug, and I purchased my long sleeve shirt today from there. So that they should be arriving in the mail momentarily, so we'll get that up there. Tons of cool stuff. You can buy all the comics on there, as Chris mentioned. He's got
other
the brand
pictures. There's lots of stuff on there.
This is your October.
Yeah, and there's a couple things that just got added, I think, that aren't on there. But there's one other event on there coming up that I believe. Oh yeah, something else has happened. I think it's just a workshop or something. But yeah, and then November is coming together as well. Whew.
Yeah, it's a great thing. You can see Chris on TikTok and Facebook and Twitter. You can join us every Monday night on Machete Comics. Join him especially. I'm not always available, but I try to be as best as possible given the tour schedule. But Monday nights on the Crier Media Network, live from Machete Comics, which is building some major steam. #1 in Saudi Arabia for a couple weeks. Pretty rad. And anyways, any parting words of wisdom from Chris Machete for our listeners and watchers, my friend?
Man, too many. I don't know, man. Too many humans. What are you guys doing?
That's right. Be better humans.
I just don't understand these humans. Yeah, be good to people, man. I don't know. I was me, man. I was always like, take care of everyone. You gotta like look out for everyone and blah, blah, blah. And it's sad to say, I don't know if it's because I'm in a bigger area and I'm seeing more and more people, but I'm back to the whole inner circle, man. Get your cult and clan together and make sure you look after them with all your blood and all your sweat and all your tears, man. But you can't help everyone. That's my motto now. You really can't. And I've wasted so much of my blood, sweat, and tears. You got to get your cult together, right, Brent? Remember, we had our inner circle, man, and we helped each other out tenfold growing up. So I don't care how old you are, recognize, man. And a good thing my brother Zig used to say, if you're not willing to go the extra mile for that person, or even just sit down and listen to their stuff, their bullshit, then you're making a choice for them not to be your friend. If they're your friend, you listen to everything they've got to say and you back them up. So you got to make a choice, man. There are people that'll tell you stuff. You can be like, I got to cut this person free. Keep them close to you. Blood, sweat, and tears for them. Peace and love, my friends. Party on and be excellent to each other.
Good times.
Rad dudes.
That's Chris Machete. This is Do.Did.Will, the Story of People podcast on the Crier Media for another week. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.